The internet is full of a very tempting promise. Train your brain, and you can be happy all the time. It sounds amazing. It is also not quite true. But here is what is true, and it is more interesting. Your brain has a kind of happiness thermostat, a setting it keeps returning to. Win the lottery, and within a year, you drift back toward it. Face a hardship, and remarkably, you often drift back toward it too. So, can you actually move that setting? The science says, partly, yes. And how you do it is not what the happiness gurus usually tell you. Let's start with that thermostat. Scientists have a name for it. Your set point. It is the baseline level of happiness you tend to return to over time. Big events push you above or below it, but rarely for long. The classic evidence comes from two very different groups. A famous study from the 1970s looked at lottery winners and people living with a serious injury. You would expect their happiness to be worlds apart, permanently. But after about a year, both groups had drifted back toward their old baseline. This drift has a name, hedonic adaptation. Your brain rapidly gets used to almost anything, good or bad. And this adaptation is not a flaw. It is a brilliant survival feature. Imagine if your brain stayed thrilled forever after one good meal. You would have no drive to hunt again, no reason to keep striving. So the brain resets, the thrill fades, and you start wanting again. That constant resetting kept our ancestors alive and striving. But in the modern world, it has a side effect. We chase the new car, the raise, the bigger house, certain each one will finally make us happy. And each time, it fades. It is called the hedonic treadmill, running hard, staying in place. The first lesson of happiness science is almost paradoxical. Chasing happiness through circumstances is running on that treadmill. So if new stuff does not lastingly work, what does? One influential model tried to break happiness into pieces. It was proposed by the psychologist Sonia Lyubomirsky and her colleagues. It suggested a big chunk is genetic, your inherited set point. A surprisingly small slice comes from life circumstances, income, where you live, the things most of us obsess over. And a meaningful slice was left to intentional activity, the things you actually choose to do day to day. Now, an honest caveat, because this matters. That exact breakdown has been debated and revised by researchers. The changeable slice may be smaller than first claimed. But the core finding survives. How you act and think genuinely matters. Your habits can nudge that thermostat, even if they cannot shatter it. And the single most studied happiness habit is almost embarrassingly simple. Gratitude. Deliberately noticing what is already good in your life. It sounds like a greeting card, but the research behind it is real. In studies, people who regularly wrote down things they were grateful for reported higher well-being than those who did not. And here is why it works against the treadmill specifically. Adaptation makes you stop noticing the good things you already have. Gratitude forces your attention back onto them, pulling the joy of things you had stopped seeing back into focus. It is not about pretending your life is perfect. It is about refusing to let the good parts fade into the background. Gratitude is not the only habit with real evidence behind it. The strongest predictor of happiness in long-term research is not money. It is the quality of your close relationships. Decades of data from a famous Harvard study point to connection as the deepest source of well-being. Its longtime director is the psychiatrist Robert Waldinger. Then there is physical movement. Exercise reliably lifts mood. It is one of the most consistent mood boosters science has found. There is acts of kindness. Helping others measurably lifts the helper too. And there is full presence, being absorbed in what you are doing. Notice what every one of these has in common. None of them is a thing you buy. All of them are things you do. Happiness, it turns out, behaves less like a possession and more like a practice. Something you tend, not something you get. But now, the most important part, the part the gurus skip. None of this means you can simply choose to be happy all the time. And it does not mean that if you are struggling, it is your fault. Sadness, grief, and hard seasons are a normal part of being human. These habits are not a cure, and they are not a replacement for real help. If your sadness is deep or constant, that is worth taking seriously. And reaching out for real support is a sign of strength, not weakness. What the science offers is not a switch. It is a direction. Small, repeated actions that gently tilt the odds in your favor. So, can you train your brain to be happy? Not like flipping a switch, not into permanent, endless joy. Your set point is real, and adaptation will always pull at you. But within that range, you have more influence than you think. Not by chasing more, but by noticing more, connecting more, doing more good. Happiness was never a finish line you cross once and keep. It is a direction you keep gently choosing, day after day. Your brain will always drift back toward its baseline. But you get to decide, every day, which direction you walk from there. If you want the real science behind how to live, minus the hype, this is your channel. Subscribe to Fiuzaverse, and let's keep separating what is true from what just sounds good.